Hey guys, welcome back to the tier list. We're taking a look at Warlock exotic armor today. Much like the Titan list, I judge exotics on a variety of metrics, including individual power, power compared to other exotics, usability per activity, and then with regards to what is considered good in the game right now, guns, subclasses, etc. We'll start at the top with helms. Fortunately, we got some work done in this category in a previous video. Be sure to check that one out if you want to learn more. Crown of Tempests gets the high skill cap, good arc PvE exotic award. Arc ability kills proc the Conduction Tines bonus that boosts the recharge rate of your abilities. This effect stacks up to 5 times and refreshes itself. This works with your super as well. The big restriction is obviously that it's arc abilities only. Much like the Hallow Fire Heart, when you have Torrent in the Nightfall, go nuts, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 5, 10 out of 10, it's really great. Outside of that though, this is an exotic that actually requires thinking about your ability usage in order to get the most out of it. Just throwing your abilities around without caring about getting kills means you will get 0 value out of this helm. On the other hand, actually thinking about ability usage can get you some pretty good results if you get kills. Even Arc Souls contributes to Crown of Tempests, and I would suggest using Arc Souls with this helm, although you do need to let the Arc Souls actually kill things, which can be weird to coordinate sometimes, especially in group play. It's a bit awkward to just sit there and hope Arc Souls actually kills something. In higher level activities, things are a bit harder to kill with abilities, so you do just need to be aware of that fact if you want to use this helm. In PvP, ability kills are rarer. You do have pulse grenades, so that's good for killing, but I don't really value just one stack very highly, and the amount of times you're going to get a multi-stack in PvP is not very common. A much better exotic in PvE than PvP, but even then, you gotta work for it in order to maximize your gains. The Destiny Item Manager community rating has this at a 4.5 out of 5. You'll see that a lot of their ratings are really high most of the time. I think this has the potential of reaching a high score, but you do need the patience to match. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite Warlock exotics though, making me actually have to think and plan my ability usage. Eye of Another World gets the, well, I'm lazy, award for decent neutral exotic in all activities. The main bonus gets you about 1 mod's worth of cooldown reduction for all of your abilities. So it's basically 3 free mods plus the priority target highlight. That perk is middle of the road for PvE. It's a very passive perk. It requires no input on your end, but if you actually want to try, there are going to be better options for you. The highlight priority target effect is rarely going to be a factor in your gameplay in PvE, barring a couple of invisible fallen dudes. So, yeah, middle of the road. In PvP, where it's a little more difficult to get those other exotic ability energy procs to happen, that's where more passive stuff like this can be pretty valuable. I also kind of like the priority target highlight for some reason. I can't really put my finger on why, I just kind of do. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.6 out of 5. Again, that's a bit high. I would call this as middle of the pack as it can possibly get. It's a very safe choice, but the skill ceiling on it is 0. Nezarec Sin gets the Great Neutral and Void Exotic Award. Void damage kills give you a buff that boosts the regen speed of your abilities. Unfortunately, this buff does not stack, and it does not refresh, although if it did, this helm would basically be overpowered. This is my go-to exotic for the most part for general play in base Destiny 2. The fact that gun kills can trigger this bonus, and not just ability kills, is what seals it as a top choice. You do need to be careful about pacing your kills in order to maximize the buff that you get, but I understand it's not really practical a lot of the time to intentionally slow down your killing just for the sake of the buff. Otherwise, this is a really simple exotic as well with a moderate skill ceiling. I don't think you need to focus as much compared to something like Crown of Tempests. It is not only safe, but incredibly effective at what it aims to do. In PvP, as long as you're getting about 2 to 3 kills per minute, it is more beneficial to use this helm over something like Eye of Another World, but that also assumes that you're actively using your abilities, and again, assumes that you're using void weaponry. If you're just sitting on your abilities, then you're losing the value of this exotic perk. This goes without saying, but you need to be using, at the very least, a void energy weapon, in my opinion. I would not only use a void power or void abilities. I would say 2 out of 3 is required, but energy weapon is going to get you the best results. Unfortunately, this does mean you do need to use your energy weapon a lot, and if you're not switching weapons often, you may run into ammo problems. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.9 out of 5, and I would say that's pretty accurate. Again, maybe a little bit high. Skull of Dire Ahamkara is the last helm, getting the "oh, this is kind of actually good now" award for being an improvement over its Destiny 1 form. It's actually 2 Destiny 1 exotics combined. It gives you bonus damage resistance while casting your Nova Bomb, and Nova Bomb kills regen super energy. So these are pretty similar to Orpheus Rig. Orpheus Rig is a really popular Night Stalker PvE exotic because you have the potential of getting it back really, really quickly. That effect can sort of negate the negative of having an exotic that only affects your super. If you're getting more supers as a result, then the effect is more valuable. You need to be planting some pretty good Nova Bombs to maximize the value of this helm though. The better you are, the more effective the helm will be for you. There's a high skill ceiling on it. Note that the only thing that matters is quantity of kills, not quality. You could Nova Bomb 3 majors and get 7 orbs, but if you Nova Bomb 6 or 7 regular enemies, you're gonna get way more energy. In PvP, the energy you get from 1 kill might be enough to snag you that second Nova Bomb opportunity in a match if you're not doing well. However, you need to weigh the potential Nova Bomb you may get versus how many kills you would get if you were wearing something else. I'd say 1.5 kills is the average for a Nova Bomb. In my opinion, it's not really worth the trade-off from a different exotic, potentially. Destiny Item Manager ratings give this a 4.7 out of 5. Again, high, but it can be capable of high scores. It just requires very consistently good Nova Bombs, and that's, a little hard to do. Karnstein Armlets are next, getting the Great Neutral Exotic Award for being, well, pretty darn solid. Melee attacks restore a little bit of health and energy. Very simple perk. It's kind of boring, but very effective. You do need to be a very aggressive player with these gloves, obviously. But the nice thing is that you don't need a kill for them to trigger. The only cooldown appears to be how fast you can melee attack. Something I didn't mention in the previous Warlock video is that with Storm Trance, these will proc as often as they are allowed to proc, which is likely due to the fact that Storm Trance's main attack is categorized as a melee attack, or rather is in the melee attack slot. Maybe it's just a bug, I don't know, but point is, it works. Like I said, you do need to be aggressive with these gloves, punching frequently in order to maximize the energy gains. Melee heavy playstyles do not work everywhere though. Prestige activities are typically a no-no for aggressive play for the average player. You need to change your playstyle in order to adapt to this exotic, which some people might not want to do, and if you don't want to do that, then Nezarec Sin is probably for you. In PvP, this may give you the slight health bump you need to stay alive in a punch fight or make your retreat a little easier, but again, you gotta be punching people often for it to be working well. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 5 out of 5. I would say the perk itself is a 5 out of 5, but for overall gameplay, it depends on your playstyle. Their potential is much higher in PvE compared to PvP. Sunbracers are next, getting the, I guess I'll use them, award for being a somewhat viable option for Dawnblade. The bonus gets you 4 extra seconds on your solar grenade, and charged solar melees give you grenade energy. Well, the nice thing about solar grenade is that it deals a ton of damage like the other grenades of its type, and with this perk, it is one of the highest damage dealing grenades in the game. The amount of energy you gain from a charged melee is about 20 seconds. Okay, so that's pretty nice, but the next thing we need to look at is how good is Dawnblade in the game right now. it's alright. It's probably the least used Warlock subclass due to how good Stormcaller is with Pulse Grenades and Arc Souls, and Voidwalker with Vortex Grenade and Devour being very popular as well. Do I think it is worth running Dawnblade with this exotic over the other two subclasses, or over another exotic? I'm indifferent. It might not be any worse, but I don't think it's really any better, and for this tier list, we're looking at maximum power. If Sunbracers gave you 2 grenades like they used to in Destiny 1, then I'd say we're looking at something with a lot of value here. In PvP, you're not using these gloves for damage exactly, you're using them for zone control, but you can use them in a similar way to pulse grenades. That being said, I don't think they're really going to have a significant impact on your gameplay experience or moment-to-moment experience. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 3.1 out of 5, an actual review score. Even then, I would say it's a tad high, but not too far off. Winter's Guile is up next, getting the niche but very effective award for being very good at what they do. It's just that it's not a very common build. Eliminating enemies increases your melee damage for a short time. This effect stacks up to 5 times, but only lasts for 5 seconds. If I were to judge the perk on its own, it's pretty insane, if not extreme overkill. A very popular combo with these gloves is Devour on Voidwalker, which allows you to fully heal on a kill. So you get a kill, you get your stacks rolling, you go around one-punching everything while being nearly immortal. It sounds awesome, right? But how practical is that in your day-to-day gameplay? When are you actually going to use this? Not only use it, but have it be as good or better than just shooting guns? Well, in easy content, it's basically a non-factor, since you're probably one-punching most things anyway, if not 2. In the raid, it's effective for clearing the doors and potentially the throne room in the Callus encounter as well, but is it better than just staying safe and shooting guns? That's a player-by-player basis judgment call. Some yes, some no. In prestige activities, it's a very high-risk, high-reward playstyle. Lots of killing power, lots of health regen, but enemies still have the potential of killing you really quickly, and if you have your stacks fall off, you're pretty screwed. So there's a high skill cap as well. I don't like the urgency that they create though. 5 seconds is a really small time frame, and that leads to more of a feeling of panic than it does excitement sometimes. Not only that, but you need to be able to chain your kills a lot, and in group play with teammates shooting stuff, that can be hard. That leaves them in a weird spot where they are incredibly effective in terms of the perk, but only in very select scenarios. In PvP, these are going to be a complete non-factor, as the amount of times you're going to get the bonus to proc and then have it be impactful is pretty close to 0. Destiny Item Manager ratings give this a 4.7 out of 5, and while that rating could apply to one specific thing, it definitely does not apply all the time. Next, we come to the chest armor, starting with Starfire Protocol, getting the, yeah, but when am I going to use this award? You get 2 fusion grenades, and fusion grenade kills instantly recharge your rift ability. This sounds actually pretty good. You drop a rift, you get a fusion kill, you drop a rift, you get a fusion kill, you drop a rift. That's a lot of rift uptime, which sounds amazing. But the problem is practicality. There aren't many times where you actually need that many rifts, and the fact that fusion grenades are generally not as strong as they were, especially in PvP, and all that on top of the fact that people aren't chomping at the bit to be on Dawnblade right now. In PvE, it's definitely a little more viable, but again, you don't need rifts that often, and the other 2 subclasses are a bit higher on the priority list. It does allow you to play a bit more aggressively, thanks to Healing Rift though. I do really like what they did to buff these robes from Destiny 1. Getting full rift energy is significant, but these just aren't hot right now. Maybe if we see some adjustments to Dawnblade or fusion grenades, these will get a little more love, or maybe if we see some more scenarios where having back-to-back rifts is vital, these will get a little more love. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 1.6 out of 5, and I would say that's pretty close to accurate. I give the perk itself probably a 4 out of 5, maybe even higher. It's just some other things surrounding it that cause them to be not as desirable. If fusion grenades in PvP still one-shotted, then I think you'd be seeing these everywhere. Next up are the Wings of Sacred Dawn, getting 2 awards. The Best Representation of a Korean MMO Armor Piece in Destiny award, and the Slightly Underrated award. These robes are absolutely ridiculous looking in the good way. What's not as good is the main perk, which is a perk from Destiny 1, where aiming in mid-air holds you in place for a short time, and getting precision hits extends the duration. The initial proc lasts about 2 seconds, with a crit extending the timer a whopping 5 extra seconds. In PvE, these don't really give you any sort of power increase. They are a do-a-thing kind of exotic that give you a new ability. And on their own, yes, not very impressive, all risk, not much reward. However, combined with the top block of Dawnblade, where you get grenade and melee energy when you get a kill in mid-air, your abilities come back surprisingly quick, and I underestimated this build initially. That's where the good stuff ends though, because there are still 3 not so ideal things about this. 1, the rest of the subclass block is sort of lacking. 2, the super is very, very short in this block. And 3, Dawnblade is not a top subclass right now. Not to mention the feeling of inconsistency with some of my shots looking dead on accurate and not even being hits on a target on console. I know that in-air accuracy is supposed to be lower, but the impression I get is that when you're locked in air, you're gonna be accurate. And sometimes I don't feel like that. That being said, if Dawnblade ever becomes more useful or gets some sort of a buff, then you know what? I think this build has a chance somewhere. Maybe not prestige activities, maybe not the Leviathan, but this build could maybe one day be something really strong. Right now, it's limited to easier activities. PC, keyboard, and mouse players will have an easier time making these work in PvE. In PvP, you reveal yourself to everyone, you're bright, and Warlocks are floaty enough, you really stick out easily, and you can't move. Now, it is totally possible to fool someone using these, don't get me wrong, but more savvy players will take note of it and will remember that you have them on, negating that surprise, and you will be easy pickings. These can be pretty difficult to pull off successfully in a PvP setting. High skill players will probably have an easier time doing so. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 1.8 out of 5. Again, pretty accurate for the time being, but these may one day have their time to shine. Plus, I mean, look how good we're looking. We're looking real good, and you gotta look good to play good. Finally, we come to boots, starting with Lunafaction Boots, getting the, oh, I forgot I could do that, award for Good Neutral PvE Exotic. Your weapons automatically reload when you move into a rift. Seems really good. Your weapons reload when the rift is dropped initially as well. The issue is that you need to go in and out of the rift in order to get the reload effect to proc. In that regard, it's not as good as something like a Rally Barricade, which just requires a crouch. These boots take a little getting used to in order to use effectively. You need to get used to strafing back and forth without losing focus on your target, which for some people can be difficult, especially on console. Mouse and keyboard is going to be a little bit easier to perform. In the raid, there are only a couple of times where the effect is going to be of significant help. The Baths and Force of Will stack collecting for Callus, but again, a Rally Barricade does the effect better on a shorter cooldown. If you have no Titans, then this is going to be the best replacement. In PvP, these are alright. Your Rift is usually handy as an oh crap button, so being able to have an instant reload when you drop it is nice, but I don't know if that's enough to warrant the exotic slot completely. You could use it as bait as well, get in a gunfight, retreat, bait someone to follow you, and then kill them, but that takes a little more skill and patience to take off, and doesn't always happen. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.4 out of 5. That's a little bit high for me. The last exotic, the Transversive Steps, get the What Happened to These award for being worse off than they were in Destiny 1. Your movement speed is increased while sprinting, and energy weapons are automatically reloaded. The automatic reload is true. It is automatic, but it just happens very slowly. They are not like Peacekeepers, which instantly reload, so that kinda is lame, but it's not helpful. It's definitely helpful. Then, again, we come back to increased sprint speed. I think you guys know my feelings on sprint speed at this point. I don't think it's very exciting or noticeable in moment-to-moment gameplay. However, these boots seem to have other benefits not stated, like increased slide distance. Therefore, I will give them a little bit of extra love for PvP purposes. Again, you can stack all of those Mida and mobility effects and all of that, sure, but for me personally, in PvE, I never feel the effects of mobility, and I would rather have something that I can feel working, more ability energy, more damage, something like that. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 4.4 out of 5 as well. That's maybe more of a PvP rating than an overall rating, and I feel like I'm probably undervaluing the energy weapon automatic reload, but still a little bit high. So you may be wondering why I didn't rate anything a 5 or even a 4 in PvP. That's because no exotics really elicit that feeling of deserving those ratings. There doesn't appear to be an exotic that was overwhelmingly better above the rest. As a result, I didn't want to purposefully inflate my scores to adjust for that, so I just rated them as I saw fit. That's going to do it for the Warlock Exotics. Hunters, you guys are up next. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating would be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.